Guys see the agenda?
Yeah, hang on one second. We're just.
I would have been at the town hall, but I didn't know we had that option. I just jumped on, so sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
I saw the email too late.
Okay, you're good to go, Frank.
Okay, are we gonna start recording?
Yep.
Okay. All right, does everybody see the screen that
I do not see a shared screen, but I have the agenda on email. So
let me try it again.
there we go. Now it's working.
See it?
Yep.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. Try not to look at my agenda. I'll try and look at my screen here. See my pretty face. I think the first thing on the agenda tonight was Martha wanted to give us a quick rundown on this carbon pricing. Is that true, Martha? Are you prepared?
That's right. Yep.
We talked about this past several meetings as far as having an environmental weekly topic, and I didn't get a good consensus from everyone, but I just took it upon myself and said, we've been doing it, so let's keep doing it. Everybody seems to like it. So go ahead, Martha, and let us hear about the carbon pricing.
Hey, Frank, maybe stop sharing your screen so that people can see Martha better.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk about carbon pricing. I know that everyone is concerned. Most people are concerned about climate change. The more news we get about climate change, the more urgent it seems to be, the more urgent it is. Everyone's doing a little bit. Some people are doing a lot. Towns are starting to do things. Companies are starting to do things, and all that is wonderful. But the most powerful thing that we can do is controlling greenhouse gases as strongly as we can. And the strongest way to control greenhouse gases and drive down, what we need to do is drive down greenhouse gas emissions, because that's what's driving climate change, these heat trapping gases like carbon dioxide. I volunteer with a national volunteer, nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy group called Citizens Climate Lobby. And the main goal of Citizens Climate Lobby, or CCL, is to have the federal government, the whole countrywide, the federal government put a fee on fossil fuels. The version that we support is called carbon fee and dividend. A fee is placed on the extraction of fossil fuels. So the extractive industries like Exxon, fracking companies, coal mines would pay the fee as they extract the fossil fuel from the ground. The federal government collects that fee, chops it into even portions, and hands it back to individual households in the form of a dividend that could be a monthly dividend or twice a year or something like that. So we don't call it a tax because the government doesn't keep the money. We call it a fee. And it all goes back to you and you and you. It all goes back to wallets. So as you can imagine, you put a fee on fossil fuel. Exxon starts paying a fee for extracting petroleum, and the fee rises every year. It's not going to be long before Exxon starts passing along that fee to everyone down the line. So as fossil fuels become more expensive, the extractive industries are going to be passing along that extra cost. So transportation costs are going to get more. Home heating, all kind of energy costs are going to get more. Manufacturing costs are going to get more. So goods are going to cost more. So prices will rise throughout the economy, but everybody's getting a dividend also. And there are modeling studies that show that for the 2/3 of households on the lower end of the financial spectrum, the dividend makes you whole. You either get as much dividend as you're spending in higher energy costs, or you even get more in dividend than what you're spending in higher energy costs. So we consider it the most protective way to raise the cost of fossil fuels. We have kept the cost of fossil fuels artificially low forever. You would not believe how much of your tax dollars go to subsidizing fossil fuels. You wouldn't believe it. So we have, and it's been, it's made America what it is. All these fossil fuels have powered our energy forever. But now these fossil fuels are harming the environment in a catastrophic way. But we still have policies that are oriented toward making sure fossil fuels stay cheap. And that's kind of crazy. So putting a fee on fossil fuels would make them more expensive. Meanwhile, green energy costs are coming down every year. So as fossil fuels get more expensive, the whole market starts to shift toward looking toward more green energy. So you and I start looking for more green energy. Car manufacturers start looking for more green energy. Buildings, businesses, governments who own tons of buildings and tons of vehicles. Vehicle owners start looking for greener options. So it drives the market. Wall Street starts looking to invest in green rather than invest in fossil fuels because fossil fuels are having less and less of a payoff. So it drives the whole market faster toward green. Meanwhile, like I said, our wallets are protected for most income levels. The highest 1/3 are going to pay more for prices because the dividend isn't going to work for them, but the lowest 2/3 of households, which is the majority of people, get as much in the dividend as they're spending extra on energy costs, or they get more in the dividend. The other main point I want to make is that we all need to think differently about our lifestyles. We all need to think about how we consume, what our carbon footprint is, and what we can do. There are 100 things that we can all do, and most people are doing some of them already. And lots of people are doing more and more of them, which is wonderful. It's what it all needs to happen. One thing that sometimes doesn't get mentioned that individuals can do is make sure you use your voice. Make sure you let your leaders know, your elected leaders know that you want governments to do more. Because it doesn't matter how many electric vehicles, anyone listening to this meeting or anyone in this room, you can buy an electric vehicle, you can put geothermal into your house, you can be as green as you want, you can shrink your carbon footprint to nothing, and it's going to do nothing for climate change because climate change is that big. We have to have policy changes so that governments are doing more and incentivizing green things and disincentivizing fossil fuels. So that's the other main point is that we can all do our part, we can all do more, including we can use our voice. And we can use our voice to tell our elected leaders do more on climate change. And one really big thing that governments can do on climate change is change at the policy level. What kinds of incentives are given for fossil fuels versus green fuels? A carbon fee and dividend makes fossil fuels more expensive while protecting households from the rising energy costs. I could go on and on, but I asked Frank for 10 minutes and that's my 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Martha, for that.
Thank you.
So next up, Stan, do you have anything to report on your tower investigating?
Nothing really new, Frank, other than, like I say, T-Mobile is going to put up a cellular array up on Sevier Road. I guess my question is, sorry, and I'm technically challenged tonight. We're having trouble with the internet in the office. I'm on my phone. Are we supposed to go over this? I know I think it's further down, but I've got a lot of questions about the solar project that's going in on Sweet Road. Are we supposed to be going through that application?
We are gonna try and do that tonight.
Okay,
Like, I'd like to try and hold these to an hour, but we've got an awful lot on the agenda tonight, so,
and I won't regurgitate anything as far as the towers are concerned. It's work in progress. I will work with Tim in terms of trying to get more information. I've worked with Ann, and other than the T-Mobile, that building permit is up. I went to the last town board meeting, talked to Tim about it, and I guess a lot of the concerns that I have with the tower overlay district, I will reiterate with the solar project that is on the docket. So I'll just hold off until later. Thanks.
okay. I see it. Okay, so let's move on to our Earth Day, which is actually next Saturday. Most of the local towns are celebrating it this Saturday. As it shows on the agenda. And we're gonna reshare my screen because I have a bunch of things that I want to show up there. And let me know when you see it.
It's there.
Okay, so I am correct, right? Our flyer says it's the 30th.
Yes.
To get everyone up to speed, I told Saratoga Nursery to please send the trees early to middle of next week. Well, they sent them early to middle of this week, so I have the trees. So Pauline has been gracious enough to volunteer to babysit the trees because I was concerned that they would not fare so well they come in a big paper bag that's lined with maybe a wax lining or waterproof lining at any rate. I've gotten them over the years for many years now. And well, they're sitting in my barn where it's nice and cool right now and dark. But my daughter's going to drop them off to Pauline and she's going to look at them and make sure that she likes the way they look and are kept moist and so forth. She knows what she's doing because that's what she does, right? So what we really need to knock out, and Phil, thank you so much for that information on the planting and just general about the trees. Did everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's, let me see here.
I sent around as far as like the schedule for the
The
day.
stuff that you provided, Phil, about the red pines and the white spruce and the planting.
Right. I didn't know if Vic, Nikki was gonna print that like she did last year.
The flyer itself?
No.
The tree information that's on white pine
Oh,
and
This information that I.
oh, I see.
yeah. White
Yeah, I'm
spruce.
sure she probably can.
Yeah,
Okay, that
Did you
that
email it
might
to
be
her?
helpful.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and the flyer, Martha, that looked great. I saw it. Everybody saw the flyer, I hope.
Yes.
Okay,
Has
So
everybody seen
then-
the flyer?
I,
Did you see the
yeah.
flyer? And circulate it to anybody that you know of, anybody you think of.
yeah, there's the flyer for you all to see it. And, oh, and as far as, so let's get into some of the details. As far as the bags go, I have a bunch of those bags. If Did anybody, I saw some emails flying around with people that we accumulated an awful lot of those bags over the years, and we have them in a big 30-gallon garbage can at my house. So do we need the
Maybe if your
bags?
daughter could, maybe if your daughter Frank could take them to Polly when she takes the trees. Because
Yep.
I don't know if anybody else has any.
Okay. I mean, you could probably fit 500 of them in one bag, just shove them in there. So I'll tell her to grab a whole bunch and take them down there with her.
Okay, thanks.
We could probably use about 100 of them.
Right,
Give away,
at 5, yeah,
there's 600 trees. We could probably use,
yeah, 100 of them, because we're gonna do some singles too, so for the little
Yeah.
kids, so yeah, 100, yeah.
Okay.
more than 100.
Yeah, there'll be more than enough.
Okay, great.
And last year we wrapped, I think, the roots in paper towels, like damp paper towels too. Stan, did you bring the paper towels or
Well, they were
I-
here.
they were here?
I know I
There's
brought
paper
up,
towels here?
I don't know, whatever. I can bring whatever you need as
There
far
are
as,
paper towels here. Okay, there's paper
Actually-
towels here, so we can just use what's here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if they're taking them home, when you're handing them out, so I don't know if your instructions indicate that, Phil, but what, people are gonna get 5 trees, maybe 10, right? So what they should do is we should ask them to plant them within the next day or 2 from when they take them.
Right,
And if they do that, they can just put them in a bucket with water and let the roots get saturated, as long as they plant them within a day or 2. That's
Right, I
right
think-
from the DEC website. They recommend that you take them out of the bag, put them in a bucket of water and carry them to where you plant them. And I've planted thousands of these over the years, not anything like Polly, but that's been very successful for me. If
Yeah.
I get tired of planting and I want to carry it over to the next day, I will just leave them in the bucket and put them in the dark in my barn. So
yeah, we
they don't
do have the-
necessarily need to be in a towel, I guess is what I'm saying. Put them in the bag, get them home, get them in the bucket.
Yeah, yeah, as long as they're damp when they leave, that's fine, yeah. Yeah.
Right, they should be pretty damp. So, okay, so that's enough on the tree. So did anybody, I can't remember how I left it last week with the scheduling, but did we come up with anything, or I put it on the agenda just to do it right now and get it over with? If we could get volunteers to go for 2 hours, is that?
Yeah, I think Stan,
Reasonable?
you said you would come in the morning, Stan and Kathy? come in-
Yeah, morning works.
I can come in the morning too.
Jen, okay, so,
Absolutely.
so maybe 8 to 10, because it starts at 9, it's from 9 to noon, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I come early, but I've got an event here that day, so I'll help get things set up and be there for a little while, but I've got a bunch of people coming up here for an event later that
Yeah.
morning.
that'll be fine, yeah, then we'll be fine, as long as we get it set up, because I think we'll need to get some tables put outside, things like that, so if you're just here for half an hour, that'll be great.
Well,
So,
the question is, last year, I think Renee was there, but somebody's gonna have to open up the town hall for us. So that'll be
Yeah.
the big, she happened to be there last year and had keys, so however we coordinate this, if somebody's gonna get, because when I first got there, there was nobody there. So if we could have somebody meet us, if we're gonna be there at 8, then somebody with keys needs to meet us at 8.
okay, we'll ask Renee to have somebody here at 8.
Yeah, I put down 8:30, guys. I don't know how long it takes to do all the stuff that you need to do, but
Yeah,
I put 8:30 to
I have no problem
10:30.
getting
and
early.
that's fine. And then maybe from 10 to 12, I'll be here. And I think Polly said she'd come at in the afternoon or the late shift too.
So right now I've got Stan, John and Kathy for the early morning.
Right. And then
And then-
I'll come after that. I'll come 9:30, 10. I'll do the second shift.
Okay, so I've got from 8:30 to 10:30 and then 10:30 to 12:30, just so we have an overlap. That's great.
Yeah.
So then we've got Phil and Polly.
Yes.
And I can
yeah.
come on the second shift as well.
Okay.
And Adam.
You need
Is it a
extra.
busy
bodies.
time of year for you, Adam?
It is, but I can be there.
Yeah, don't,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Tuesday.
I don't know. These guys were there so they can tell you how many people do we really need, guys? Is one?
Yeah,
one
two
person?
is usually plenty. I mean, it's not like a steady stream of people, so, it's nice to have two people, but it's, that, I'm sure one could probably handle if we had to too, but
Okay.
two's good.
So we've
But
got
if,
it
you know,
covered.
if you
then.
have, yeah, if we have three, that's great too. Then there's more people to talk to and stuff.
Perfect.
So, yeah, the
Okay.
more the merrier, yeah.
All right, so
That'll be fine. And we
I'll
can use the
follow up.
tables like last year from in the hall here. We can use the tables.
They're in the supply room.
Okay, yeah, so we'll have the tables here. The only question I have is if it rains. Because last year it was outside, it was a beautiful day. But I wonder if we can go into the town barn or something.
what are they forecasting?
It's gonna be beautiful.
John
Gotta
is
be.
forecasting.
Is there-
Stan's having an event. Then it's gotta be.
I don't think so.
I guess
What
we'll.
What about the banner, guys?
Yeah, I
Don't we
think
have-
there's a banner last year, wasn't there a banner?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a banner here, so that'll be the morning crew will put up the banner.
Banner. Okay, perfect. And please take lots of pictures of all the handouts and the setup and everything. We can put them up on
Okay.
the website, hopefully. Okay,
Your buckets here?
15
Any other
degrees,
things on-
20% chance of
on
rain.
next Saturday?
Said it.
Yeah,
Big,
so
one of those plastic.
But that'll change those
plastic
weather.
storage.
Yeah,
All right.
okay, that's just so there's something to sit in so they don't dry out where we're sitting.
it'll be 75
Pull 'em out.
this Sunday
Right.
into the
Then
40s the
put it
week
on-
after.
Someone soaks the paper towels.
Right.
And wraps the roots
Yeah.
and sticks them in a plastic bag.
Right.
And somebody's piling them on the table and somebody's talking to
Yeah,
people
That's why I
about
think you-
handing out the.
to get them organized, because I think the first shift does take a while, 8 o'clock, that's good, it's just to get them all individual bags.
Oh, you want
'Cause
to
you
be bagged ahead of time because it was very hectic.
Yeah, if we get there early, we can do some bag ahead, absolutely,
Yeah,
whatever.
and it was 600 trees, putting them in 5 thing, I think it's
Yeah.
gonna take a while,
It
so,
was kind of hectic.
yeah, so that's why if we do bag them ahead of time.
And
it'll be
do we,
easier for the
you
whole-
guys mentioned, I think, the list you had to hand out, do we have handouts to how to plant and how to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm gonna email Nikki to make sure she.
See if we
Okay,
can
good.
print that off.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I missed that earlier.
Yeah, I'll email her. You probably didn't, I'll send you the email too, because you probably weren't on the email, because you weren't on the.
Gotcha, right,
Before.
right.
Okay, so are we good?
We also have packets to give away, packets of pollinator-friendly plant seeds. We have 100 of those, I think,
Oh, okay.
to give away.
So logistically, somebody's going to need to pick up the actual trees.
From Polly.
Yeah, from Polly. Any volunteers?
Where does she live?
Her farm is down on 91 at the big S curve.
Yeah, I can grab them
Is that kind of on your way? or-
now, but that's fine.
Let me
Early Saturday, I can get down there and
let me coordinate with her. Okay, and I will just send an email out to everyone.
yeah, and I
Okay.
can respond to that if they need something, that's fine.
Okay.
And then somebody can reply back and say that I'll get the trees. Otherwise, I can certainly have one of my kids bring them down.
Okay.
We're also going to have Heat Smart CNY tabling at the event, which dovetails nicely with our project of getting Heat Smart Pompey up and rolling next month. Heat Smart is a state program of incentives for people to put heat pumps into their house and do other efficiency measures. And Pompey is launching a Heat Smart campaign to get Pompey residents to do some of these efficiency measures and get the incentives that New York State and the federal governments and sometimes National Grid give out.
Okay.
So they'll be talking about those kinds of things at our Earth Day. And it's, like I said, it's timely because next month we're launching a Heat Smart campaign.
Okay, so on to our next topic. Has everybody seen this application? Yeah, I don't know if I think it's been sent around to everyone. Did everyone, are you still seeing my shared screen?
Yes.
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 You guys have a big screen. Can you see it? Zoom in a little bit.
That's better.
Can you read it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this location, let me see if I can. There it is. Okay, so here's Sweet Road. And is everyone familiar with this piece of property here? As you go driving down Sweet Road on the west side?
Yes.
Yep, okay. That's where they're proposing this facility. Get down to there, oops. And here's a map of a proposed layout, right? So back to the application, I'd reach out to all you guys for comments, actually. If you've looked this over. From an environmental standpoint, an ECC standpoint, we typically look at a lot of the things that they've addressed, right? They show the wetland boundaries. They don't have any requirements for any wellhead or septic system or anything like that for the planning board. So from an environmental perspective, do you guys want to speak up? Does anybody have any thoughts?
I guess being newer to the committee, my kind of first question is, and it's gonna be different person by person, I guess, but the committee put forward, a single opinion on it. I don't know. Obviously there's a lot of details that go into that decision, and I understand what some of the reservations might be from individuals. But I guess I just wanted to kind of gauge or poll us as a group. And is this something that we are trying to be solution oriented for to be able to green light? Or is this going to be something that we're going to try to hit the brakes on? I'll speak for myself and say that I would like to see this go through. But I know solar farms can be unfortunately controversial. So I guess from my new position on the committee, I kind of wanted to poll the group just to say, is this something that we are going to try to find, be able to do, or is it something that we're going to try to stop? I guess.
So no, so that's a valid question, Adam. And what we have to do when we're wearing this hat, so to speak, right? We have to be very objective and think from the environmental perspective. These are the things that we note that concern us or do not concern us, right? We can't let our personal views get in there at all. We have to look at this and say, hey, the town of Pompey is encouraging view shed, blah, different things that we can state as factual. Okay. There's other state issues that we could identify, but those are all being looked at by other governing bodies like wetland encroachment, rare plants and species, those kinds of things. Not really our place. I mean, we can certainly point them out, but these things are being looked at when you read through this report. State historic preservation, all those things that you've probably worked on in your career. So yeah, we're not going to sit here and say we're promoting or denying this. We just want to look at it objectively. Does that make sense to everybody?
Hey, Frank, can I jump in for a minute?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of this and having been heavily involved with the towers and now to kind of help write this solar law, the law is very well written and it gives the town a lot of options. I mean, our job as the ECC is to voice our concerns for this solar project. And although, like I said, when we went back and forth with a few emails, I really think we should ask Renee for another 30 days just so that everybody on this committee has an opportunity to really look at this application and then take a harder look at the solar law, not only to see what our role is, but to see what the law kind of brings up. And it does bring up a lot of things that we might have as concerns. And I mean, from my standpoint, when I get into it, you know, you can talk about ag and markets, you can talk about view shed, you can talk about disposal, prime farmland, you know, removing of existing trees. I mean, I've got a lot of concerns about this project, but I don't want to, again, monopolize the meeting because I've done a little bit of research and I've been involved with the law. So, I mean, moving forward, if you want me to go through all of these, I'd be more than happy to. But I don't want to monopolize the meeting.
Well, I'd like to hear from everybody and say, you know, I don't know what our time frame is with this. I hope I didn't miss it in the email. I don't, I don't know that we have just this meeting to look at this, but
Well, we have, if we ask for it from the town board, we can have another 30 days. When we went back and forth with emails, I kind of think the clock is already ticking. And we have 30 days from the time that we got the application to report back to the town with our concerns.
okay.
And, I mean, my assumption is, and I think I said in the email, Renee can reconfirm this, whether the clock is already ticking. And if it is, and we're just taking a look at this now, I've spent quite a lot of time on this because, you know, and I understand the applicant's right to do what he or she wants with their land. But having been involved with the towers, I don't want to see the same mistakes made with solar that were made with the towers. And I've got a lot of things to say about that.
Okay, so what I propose is everybody in favor of asking for the additional 30 days for us to talk about this and discuss it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do that then. But what I was thinking tonight, we would try to come up with some pros and some cons, like it sounds like you may have done, Stan, or maybe identify things that we would like to get more information on. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you have a laundry list, Stan, I guess it would be good to hear it, and maybe that would further conversation amongst the group here.
What I would recommend is, I mean, first of all, when you look at the solar overlay law, the first part of it, you know, addresses some of the concerns. But we're looking at a tier 3 system. So you can eliminate tier 1 and 2 when you're looking at the law, and we're talking about a tier 3. I mean, ag and markets has, you know, many recommendations, many guidelines that I think should be at least looked at. And from our standpoint as the ECC, I think that stuff is kind of right up our alley. A big thing for us would also be when we talk about the view shed. And, you know, is there going to be adequate screening? What are the setbacks? Long term, I've got some questions, you know, about decommissioning, disposal, moving, you know, through the life of this thing. When they make any changes, any maintenance, any broken panels, is the insurance going to be kept up, or you know, emission? What are the penalties for that? We're talking about loss of prime farmland, which is in there. removal of existing trees and vegetation, proximity to wetlands. I mean, my big one is there's really no length that this solar array can stay. If the owner so chooses, this could be here for 100 years. And then right now, the application is for 96 acres, of which they're going to use 20, but there's nothing to say that they can't go from 20 to 46 acres. So once they get approved, my concern is, again, goes back to a lot of the same things. They can virtually double the size of the acreage of what they're going to get approved for. So, I mean, the planning board had concerns. If you review that meeting, and they voted not to, I guess, move on with the application, although it was a split vote. I know that there was pros and cons both ways. So I just, my biggest concern is if this is approved, what kind of monitoring is in place to make sure that, I mean, we're not going to end up in the same situation that we are with the towers.
What does our solar law say? Does anybody know as far as the removal of vegetation? Do they have to replace on a 1-to-1 basis, or do we know?
I don't know what the exact, I mean, basically it's farmland now, and at the decommissioning, it goes back to farmland. But again, how that is done, there's supposed to be a bond in place to decommission. If it doesn't have output, I guess, for a year, then we can kind of proceed. But I mean,
It
I-
looks. Oh, go ahead, Stan.
I mean, moving forward,
I have a
Frank,
procedural question to jump on to Stan's concerns. As a committee, are we expecting to get answers to those questions, Stan?
No.
Or are we
no, we get
expecting
no
to
answers. We
raise
just make,
those?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we make recommendations to the town board, and then the town board decides whether to approve this as an overlay district. Then once it's approved as an overlay district, then they can apply for building permits and all the other necessary. It doesn't mean the solar array is going to go up immediately. I mean, the town board is doing a site visit, I believe this weekend, weather permitting. I mean,
Right.
check the town website, so there will be a site visit.
Right,
And I mean, I know the town board is, I mean, they are taking this seriously because this is the first project, and I
so
guess,
for the questions that you're raising, you're talking about raising them and giving them back to the town board as concerns that you have, the
yes,
concerns that our committee might have.
yes, but I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Not at all. My knee-jerk reaction when I first saw this was, well, just looking at this map that I've pulled up, they are proposing to decimate a fair amount of trees. Would appear to be from the aerial mature hardwoods. Granted, the majority of this lies within an agricultural field, but then you get into this edge of woods here, and this whole strip of woods here just about clear over to the next field. And you're not getting a fair representation, because if they're going to put a fence in this woods, they're clearing beyond this fence. Just, that's just what's gonna happen. So that was
Well,
my thing. Wow, that's a lot.
Frank, Frank, what you're seeing there is, this is a proposed 20 acre.
22 acre, I believe, right?
22 acre solar farm. All right, under the current law, if the town approves 96 acres, they can go up to 50% of that 96 acres.
Mhm.
So they could add another, based on my understanding, again, this is just me talking and I'm not a lawyer because I've been corrected many times. they could go another 22 acres so that they use 50% of that prime farmland. And so if that total parcel is approved, then they could add up to 20, well, whatever half of 96 is, add 22 to that, or take away 22, so they could add that much more in terms of, and that's, I guess, one of my biggest fears. I mean, all they're coming in and they're saying, oh, well, it's only going to be 22 acres. We're only using that out of the 96. The law as it's written, there's nothing to say that they can't go to, 45, 48, 40, 48 acres.
46 more, 26 more. Yeah.
What, we had some long conversations, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago about the buffer zone. I don't know where that ended up ultimately, but there's a buffer required around the edge of this as well, right?
It's the buffering would be more for view shed. There's
I
a
thought there
100
was
foot,
a
there's a 100,
distance though, Stan.
there's a 100-foot setback unless the board deems that it needs to be, they can go up to 200 feet. The law as it's written is a 100-foot setback.
From the property line.
Yep, from the property line. So when you start talking about Sean Stacer, who is I'm sorry to bring up a name, but the guy that's right there in the middle, there has to be a 100-foot setback. Well, yeah, it's right on the
here.
map. Yep.
Yep.
And then a 100-foot setback from the road is my understanding. And then you've got Mary Baum on the south. So there would have to be a 100-foot. The
100-foot
buffering that you're talking about would have to be more, they're going to plant vegetation and things like that just for view.
They're showing the 100 feet there. Oh, and they're showing it on the front. I missed that. Okay, so the buffer is in there. I take it that these folks know what they're doing, but there is definitely a buffer between the wetland and any structure, and I thought it was 200 feet, but I don't know, maybe that's something.
The wetland may be 200 feet. I don't know. I know property line's 100 feet.
Right. And if you read into it, they say they're not putting any foundation type material down. These panels would be easily removable, is what they're claiming in their text. If you read into that, I don't know.
Yeah.
That sort of brings up a question as to what do they consider to be disturbed land during construction? And that would certainly have an environmental impact. And I think there are a number of different ways that they could look at what they consider to be disturbed land. Now, you said, there are certain state permit programs and things that come into play. But again, it's something that, there's a wetland on site. So there were just some questions about that I think would have a large environmental, a lot of questions that need to be raised about the construction. How much clearing are they going to do? What do they consider the roads during construction? And then the fence itself is a huge obstacle to the movement of wildlife through there. And when you're talking about destroying that buffer, you've got a lot of habitat loss along the edge. So,
Exactly.
it was my understanding that, they're the types of issues that in my mind, I thought we were charged with looking at, but I'm starting to think that maybe it goes a little bit beyond that.
I completely agree. Like the corridor that you pointed out, this corridor right here, a lot of people don't think about this, but the way that the wildlife around here moves, right? They stay in cover. So we're developing more land and more land. They typically will travel these types of corridors. Now you're going to destroy that. And, just one more that's destroyed. There's one up here. This is a clean corridor from a large woods to another large woods. But anyway, yeah, these are some things that we have to cite. Then I'd love to look into the solar law and see what we say about replacing trees. Because they state in their text that they're going to replace some, they're going to damage some trees, very minimal. And they're also going to replant. I would vote that they have to replant on a 1-for-1. And then they should dictate the size of those trees as well, not just little seedlings. They
But-
should be,
but I'm sorry to ask this, but where would they replant them? They don't want them shading the solar.
maybe on other parts of their 96 acres that's not wooded. I don't know. It just, for me personally, that was the biggest shock to me, Pauline. With, I just said, whoa, that's a lot of trees. They're gonna just come. And it's their property. If they were gonna build a subdivision there, they'd go through. I guess
I think
it's
something that's important to take into account is when we're comparing factors of what will stay or what will go, or the pros and cons of the solar panels themselves, is that every factor isn't equally as valuable. One solar panel isn't equivalent to one tree, which is equivalent to one, animal of wildlife. So I think that that's something that we need to sort of be careful of as when we're taking stock of what this project will bring or take away, is that each item isn't equally valuable. And we can get into the weeds here with as far as like how much carbon dioxide a square foot of mature forest absorbs versus how much carbon dioxide a square foot of solar panel offsets. And there are already averages for those that we can take into account or look at. We don't have to produce that information ourselves. But I think that's important too, is to just remember that it's not always, all factors don't contribute equally to an environmental function.
And my apologies for being so late, but when your sheep shearer announces he's coming, you don't exactly argue with him. And I'm not in, I just left, I haven't even left the barn yet, but I have left the interior. Where exactly is this parcel located? I'm sorry, I'm so stupid.
Can you see the screen?
I did earlier, but it seems to have disappeared.
Wheat Road, down the road from the towers.
Just
Is
south
that-
of Pratt's Falls Road.
Is that a good hardwoods or is it scrub brush and pricker brush and God only knows what's in there?
I don't know.
Well, I live probably a mile from that, and that's the parcel that's next to our property is good hardwood.
Okay,
I mean, I don't know, like where Frank is right now. Stop moving, Frank.
Sorry.
You can see that, I live towards the top of Frank's screen up there, and you can see where, to the north, it looks like it looks like a racetrack over there. That is the towers, yeah, up there. So those woods over there that are adjacent to the towers, and further west, Frank, over, yeah, right down, come down, right in, just come down a little, yeah, in there, those are good hardwoods. Now,
Okay.
what if Frank comes further east towards the parcel itself in question? Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't. Obviously it's not my property. I don't go over there. I can only speak intelligently where I'm at.
Doesn't look like it
Frank,
has-
when you talk about the end of this in terms of what they're going to do, it just has to have a decommissioning plan and a detailed description of the site work that shall be done. And then to my point earlier, there's nothing to say that this can't stay a solar farm for the next 100 years. As long as it remains active, if they upgrade and do whatever they need to do, next 1,000 years. So, I know the life cycle of the panels I think they're putting in there estimated as 25 years. But if they want to upgrade those panels, if the owner wants to upgrade those panels or the solar company wants to upgrade those panels and keep the farm, as long as it is generating energy, it can stay a solar farm indefinitely.
Are you saying that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm just making that point. I'm not saying one.
Okay.
I have my feelings on all of this and I'm trying to remain as neutral as possible. And so I'm just bringing up as many points as I am concerned of because you obviously see that racetrack to the west there. There is no incentive to take down any of those towers, to do anything there. And that's why I'm glad the solar law has been written the way it is. And I just want to make sure that the proper monitoring is done. We're a small town and limited means. And so oftentimes, you know, a lot of the town officials are overtasked with their duties. And I mean, if this solar farm does get approved, then who is going to monitor the terms and conditions that are written into the law? And there are many of them.
Well, and I'm glad that we have that law too. It sounds, I've read it not recently enough. I'm going to review it, but it did seem to me when I first read it that we built a lot of protections in that the town has over these things. And whether or not, to your point, Stan, about whether or not those protections will be enforced down the road. I mean, you make the plan, you make the law, you require the developer at the front end to comply, and then you just sort of assume that, you know, our town in the next decade or two or three will also still be complying with the law and that there will be follow through. What more can we do other than make the law and
No, I agree, Martha. I can speak from experience that a lot of things have been dropped through the cracks when it comes to the towers. So I want to make sure that moving forward, if we voice any concerns, that they're heard and
yeah.
that they're I mean, at least looked at and monitored or you know, adhered to.
Yeah.
What do people see as the greatest impacts of this from our perspective?
View
I
shed.
would, I would throw out their view shed myself.
Yeah.
And I guess it is in our wheelhouse to say the loss of fertile farmland, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mine would be what the end of life cycle plan is for the panels.
I think also the impact of wetlands and the forest.
Yeah, and I, you know, and I look at some of the shorter term stormwater and erosion issues during construction until it's revegetated, how it's revegetated. You know, just that, you know, basically the site conditions. And a lot of it leads back in my mind to that wetland.
Any type of runoff.
Understanding, I mean, they talk about, you know, pollinator friendly, you know, I think they mentioned along the buffers, I don't know, but like, what about under the panels? What are they going to do with the clearing? So I have a lot of sort of short-term concerns as well as the long-term concerns that other people have mentioned.
Another point along with Kathy's comment there is like, how are they going to control weeds and things like that? Are they going to use herbicides?
They talked about bringing in sheep.
Yeah, I know. I did see that, but in reality, what are they really going to do?
No. In all honesty, there are sheep solar grazing
Mhm.
associations, and we've been
Yeah.
approached more than once about our own flock of sheep coming in for solar grazing. And it's quite interesting and quite economical and worth having. I would be less concerned about, I wouldn't poo-poo that at all.
Well, I'm not-
It's an
The
established.
herbicide stuff I'm concerned with,
Yeah.
you know,
You've seen
that's
that
what's
for
running off in the
landfill.
wetlands right there.
Well,
So,
I have a solar farm near me and there's no sheep on that solar farm.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that
Well,
way.
maybe on that one, but you go down to the Ithaca Dryden area and there's lots of them. And a lot of these solar people are loath to discuss herbicides because they know that's a bad rap. They don't want that. So I wouldn't joke about that because it's actually being done successfully in other counties. as far as construction disturbance and all, I've watched solar farms, well, I was in Florida, and I watched these solar farms going in down there, and I think Frank makes a good point. Just because the solar panels may not last 20 years doesn't mean that they wouldn't upgrade them. If they have an existing field where they don't have to do construction again, why wouldn't they upgrade them?
That was me.
Or whoever made that point. I'm sorry. I'm late to the market.
I
But
think yeah, go ahead, Paul.
this site will have no unusual construction disturbances than any construction site that currently goes on for houses or anything like that. I mean, they're all a concern. Is there a wetland on this piece?
There is.
Yes.
There is.
Let me go
Well,
back
that's
to the.
nothing above.
I mean, by virtue of the size of the solar farm, its construction isn't comparable to, a house.
No,
And there's a
But-
lot of equipment going in and out, during construction. And again, what do they view as disturbed land acreage? What permits? Again, now we're getting into state regulations, but there are concerns. And
Well-
once the site is revegetated, then maybe the runoff isn't such an issue.
No,
But for that number of panels and the slope, yeah, you'll see changes in the microclimate. You're gonna have along the drip edge, you're gonna have a lot of velocity coming off those panels when we get these soaking rains or these giant wet snows that just melt and slump off, and then you're gonna get areas until it's well vegetated. So I mean, there are
regardless,
concerns,
though,
and I don't think
Kathy-
it's comparable to construction of a house.
Yeah, Kathy, I think that's one of our biggest concerns here is the stormwater management. That I don't see anything being addressed about that, but I mean, being that I'm very familiar with how we do this, if I ran an analysis on this and did a pre and post infiltration and runoff, I mean, that those panels obviously have a much greater runoff potential than a fallow farm field or a cultivated farm field. So they're going to need to detain that water to the precondition. And they're going to need to make room for some stormwater ponds, some rain gardens, or some storage, because they're taking up, I don't know, 22, maybe 18 acres with impermeable glass.
Which way does that
Right.
slope?
Yeah, and again, I think that, a lot of it, when it comes down to the state permits and what management practices have to get installed to control or retain the stormwater, a lot of it comes down to the disturbed acreage, what's open at any one time, and how do they calculate that? And it's just a question. It might all be fine, but it's a legitimate question. And if they were trying to, and I'm not saying that they are trying to get by on anything, but there are little loopholes and ways around.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
They may be saying they're not disturbing 5 acres
exactly.
because of the way they're not putting in foundations.
Mhm.
And some of the regulations are a little gray on what's disturbance.
Right.
So exactly, they may not be putting any stormwater ponds in.
Mhm.
Oh, and then my question
You don't
begs
have to.
that when we start talking about this particular project is 22 acres, but the way I understand the law, there's nothing to say that they can't make it larger. So that would be a concern if they make this even larger. I mean, that all the concerns that we have is just, that makes it that much more, I guess, a concern. I mean, if this project is another 10 acres bigger.
They'd have to permit it again though, Stan.
What's that?
They would need to re-permit that additional. that
Well, Frank,
expansion.
they're talking about getting the 96 acres approved as a solar overlay district. So if that's
Right,
the
but
case,
like you said earlier, they can get it approved as an overlay district, but then they come in with a plan as what they're actually going to build.
Okay.
And then that gets looked at again and that gets approved or,
So they have to,
tweaked.
Can I hate to, I've been silently listening, but I just have to weigh in. It's the supervisor, Renee. I'm sitting here in the room. It's not exactly accurate to say that they can just they can just expand willy-nilly. If they want to expand, please, 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 I encourage the ECC board members, read the laws. And you have to keep going back to them. I've been doing it while I've been sitting here, because there's a
Okay.
lot in it. If they want to improve, if they want to add more than 20% of the size of the project, they have to come back to the planning board. That's number one. But secondly, they're limited right now because they don't have the connectivity, and they're limited to the KW that can be produced from there. So I just want, I hear what Stan's saying, and I've heard him say it before, but I just want you to understand there are built-in protections in the law to address trying to make it a bigger project than what they come originally before the planning board. And I don't blame him for being worried about it, because he's going back to the cell towers, and that's been an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, Renee, absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
I think the law is very well written, and it gives the planning board, it gives the town board a leg to stand on. You're right, from my tower issues, I would call me paranoid, call me whatever.
you're paranoid.
You
Yeah,
don't.
okay, I'm fine, I'm
He doesn't
paranoid,
trust.
but I want to make sure that I think long-term, because, you know, I mean, a lot of guarantees and a lot of things have been said in this town, and so, I mean, it's a long time ago, and 20 years passes very quickly. Because I've been involved with the towers now for well over 20 years. And so I just want to make sure long-term that the town is protected, the residents are protected, and, you know, that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's all.
Speaking of long-term, another thing that was brought up as to what kind of decision process we have here is for us to be thinking about what matters to us as town members and as committee members, what matters to us, what we value, what we want to protect, and what we don't want to protect. I hear Frank talking about protecting the trees. I can't disagree with that. But trees can always be replanted. I'm thinking in terms of valuing the idea of renewable energy and valuing the idea that as a town, we're thinking big that way, that this is the future, renewable energy is the future. And this particular farm is not just a private organization. From what I understand, it could be community solar as well. So town residents can buy into community solar and start without having to think about putting solar or any other thing at their property. They can buy into solar energy, get solar power in their homes by buying into a solar community farm there, community energy there.
I think that's a really important point, Martha, because I don't know, I think it would be a little hypocritical of us as a town to support green energy and green initiatives and then maybe start to go down a road of, you know, NIMBY, not, you know, we want these things to function, but just maybe not around here. So I think it's important to kind of square what our priorities are going to be so that we're, you know, sending forward a logical message that doesn't contradict itself.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. I guess I would just ask the question that would you guys be okay with the solar farm in your backyard?
I have an array.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I do too.
I do too.
I mean, a solar farm, not just an array on your house. I mean, a
Same
solar farm.
concept, but yeah.
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I would, but with all the protections that our solar law have already built in, which is screening and setbacks and so on.
Right,
Yeah.
I think that's what we have to do is balance it, you know, so we want the solar, you know, we're all for green energy and reducing the carbon footprint, but we also want to protect the environment too. So what we're really, as a committee, is looking to balance those various needs, I'll say. so that we can build a solar farm, but so that it protects the environment at the same time. So that's really, I think, what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we could keep going on, guys. So let me recap what I'm hearing, if I can try, and please jump in as I go through this. I'm hearing view shed is a big issue, right? We obviously drive down Sweet Road, we look off to the west and we see this. And they've said they're going to plant buffers, so we can report back to the board that we would like some better information on the buffer planting, maybe? Is that a true statement?
Yes.
If Renee's there, I mean, don't they have to submit some type of, I mean, what it's gonna look like before they start building all of this?
Oh, absolutely. But this is to get the solar district, get them within the solar district right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Renee.
But
She had
that's
to
part of
step
the,
out.
you're asking, I mean, we have, and our job is just to say, these are our concerns. I
Yes,
mean, I don't
yes.
think we're
and
in
we
a
would like
position-
to hear more about X,
okay.
right? In this case, our concern is the view shed. Their rebuttal is they're going to plant. We would like to know, what, at least I'm asking the question, do we want to hear more about their buffer
Oh, that's
planting?
better.
So Frank, can I just ask a question first? So I guess I'm a little confused. Are we going to ask for the 30-day extension or not? And then
We
are
are.
these the questions that you're asking now, are these that you're going to submit, or you're just gathering some information?
No, I
and
want to
maybe sending
gather
out-
information so we have something to keep going on.
Right. Maybe
Hard
send
to
out an
point.
email and we kind of respond to that, based on what you're gathering?
Yeah, because this is like a work session, right? And then next
Right.
meeting, we're gonna have to do it again. And then we're gonna have to submit it.
Right, okay. I was just wanting to clarify what the intent was.
And-
Frank, I mean, if you sent out an email and then we just kind of voiced our concerns, and I mean, we can put it down on paper, and next meeting, we can either talk about it or just say, okay, we're good to submit these concerns.
Okay,
We had an email tree going around where, as a group, we can voice our concerns, and then next meeting, we can put it online so everybody can see what they are and then submit them.
okay, so the big items I heard tonight were the view shed, the end of life cycle, how they're going to handle that. I believe it's in that report. The impact on the forest, the impact on the wetland, the stormwater management issues associated with this farm. Anything else that jumps out?
Balancing our values between protecting this parcel, but also thinking in terms of renewable energy as we go forward for the whole town and just, for the future.
All right,
Just a quick question. The topography of this piece, all those solar arrays, which way, when it rains on them, which way is it gonna go? Is it gonna go towards the wetland, or is it gonna head
Toward the
towards the?
wetland.
Is it
Going
towards the
toward the
wetland?
wetland.
It has, okay.
This is 1520 up here, and this is 15, let me zoom in for you. It's dropping off this way. right
Okay,
toward
gotcha.
the
Thank you. Good.
And
So
there's
that
the
wetland's gonna
stream.
absorb, depending on the sediment load, that wetland's gonna absorb a lot of these problems that we're talking about, as long as we don't destroy any of the wetlands. So that
Well,
hopefully will be a buffer
So
too.
won't the panels themselves be sloped to the south?
Yes.
So,
they will be.
the.
So turn this way?
it'll Drain to the south, but then if the topography is such, it'll backflow to the
They move
wetland.
with the sun, these panels. They're
They move with the sun, so.
They're gonna rotate with?
Okay, yeah, they'll, just so you know.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
So apparently the panels rotate
They'll change the slant, the slope, it will change depending on.
depending on where the sun is
Where
at.
the sun
They
is.
follow the sun.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Remember reading it, yeah.
Mhm.
so are we we'll report to the town that we want a 30-day extension to look at this and discuss it at our next meeting. And we've got other things. It's already 8:15. Is everybody good with that? To leave that for now?
Yep.
Frank, can I just weigh in again just for a second? Just to
Sure.
say that we do meet, the site visit on Saturday at 1. On Sweet
23rd.
Road is considered a town board meeting. So if you want me to raise the issue to the town board to approve a 30-day extension, I could do it then rather than wait.
Good idea.
Okay, I vote that we ask for the 30-day extension. Everybody in
agree.
favor?
Yes.
I-
Okay, then I will bring that to the board's attention on Saturday.
Okay, when did the clock start ticking?
For you, a little later, Stan, because apparently the email didn't get to you. So
When did it start ticking for everybody else? That's all, doesn't matter.
whatever the date of the email was that was sent out, I think it was sent out at the end of the week of the board meeting, which was March 7th, I think. I mean, wait a minute, what month are we in? April.
April 5th.
April 4th, as I think was the board meeting. So it probably went out a few days after that, like the 7th or the 8th.
The 8th, I just looked it up.
What did you find, Adam?
It's the 8th. I just checked.
Thank
Okay,
you.
okay. So moving on. Did anybody look at the Hootnick subdivision application?
Did that get sent around?
I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
I didn't get it either.
Yeah,
Okay. That's, I didn't pay attention. As to, I thought it got sent to everybody, but apparently just to me. So I will, after the meeting, I will email it to everyone, okay? Apparently, they would like to subdivide. Let me get these straight because there's 2 of them out there right now. I believe this is the 22-acre piece that they want to pull out 5 acres and develop. Historically, we used to have codes sit in on our meetings pretty regularly when we were talking about these things. And they were much more familiar and they could add a lot of information. I did some homework before the meeting. I think this is the one. Renee, are you familiar with it? I don't want to drag you into the meeting all the time, but this is the one where they want to subdivide out 5 acres, right? Right up here. Lot 1B. Yep.
It's off of Brickyard Falls Road near the creek.
Yep.
On the west side. It's between Watervale and Brickyard Falls, the land.
And I don't-
There you go.
Okay, so I don't want to sway anybody, but historically, when we've seen these requests for a subdivision, it's been from the ECC perspective, that you're not doing anything but drawing a new line on paper. So we, and certainly everyone speak up, but from an environmental perspective, at this point, I say we don't have a concern of anything yet. Now, when you say what I'm going to build on here and I'm going to do this and that, and then we might have some comments, but feel free to weigh in and say whatever.
I guess just it doesn't show obviously vegetation cover or what, relation to what's going on outside the parcel, because it's easy to say on a map, well, these are our boundaries, but the environment doesn't have boundaries like we put lines on paper. So I guess more context on what is important immediately around the site as well.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. So in the past, if something's going to happen here, Adam, we would certainly, as the ECC, we could go out and do a site visit, do a drive-by at a minimum and
Mhm.
look at this parcel. But what I'm saying, and it probably was clear to you, all they're doing right now is having a surveyor just parcel out this 5 acres.
Right.
No, so I don't. Okay, go ahead and parcel out your 5 acres from an environmental perspective. You tell me you're gonna come in here and build a whatever, then I might have some questions. From an
I know
environment.
the planning board has spent a lot of time on this particular, because I watched the planning board meeting. And the lady that's trying to subdivide, I mean, she's an artist, and I think she's trying to put in some type of studio that maybe later she can live in, and then somebody else is looking at buying the other 20 acres, and then that I think would fall under our jurisdiction, because she's talking about moving her kids in here someday and building a few houses on that other parcel.
Right. One thing I can say is I like the fact that they are.
Money can't buy happiness.
They are proposing a road here.
It's
So
so true.
It's not it's not strip subdividing, you know, they're at least proposing a road, which
Right.
is a good thing, in my opinion. So, any thoughts, comments, concerns, questions on the Hootnick subdivision from a ECC perspective at this point?
I don't have it.
Anybody?
No,
So then similarly, the next application is for the Stringer property. And I believe it's a similar application. It was a little bit confusing reading this about the drainage easements. Like I said,
Frank, it's Renee.
Yeah.
This one, this was a site plan that was approved a while ago.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say 2005, for a development. It literally, I think, is it Kitawake? I forget which one it is, but
it is Kitawake.
this is like the final build out of that, and he just was coming back, as I understand it. And Stan, weigh in if you want, because I sort of left the planning board meeting before this one, because the Hootnick one took so long. I didn't stay for the last part. I don't know if you did.
They added 2 lots, or they, what did he say? Re-subdivided, which is kind of new term to me. The re-subdivision of 2 existing lots into 2 new lots. So what did they do? A lot line change or something?
I don't know. Sorry.
That's where I miss having the code enforcement officer at these meetings when we're gonna go over these, because they have a very good understanding of this, and we only have so much time, being that this is not our full-time job. So I apologize. I should have a little better understanding of this one, but
you're not a good way to.
I will send all this out to everyone. Renee, are you looking for comments back from the ECC on these 2
Well,
immediately?
it's a planning board that made the referrals on these
Correct.
2.
Right.
So they definitely would be looking for a response from, if there, I mean, you already have no problem with the first one. So, I mean, if you want to give them back that response, but I could call Sue Smith and she could explain it.
Well, I
in a
mean,
sec.
doesn't appear, they're not building anything once again, right?
No, I think I think it's, you're right in terms of it's similar, but as I said, don't rely on me because I did not stay for this one on the planning board, at the planning board meeting. And I can't read that.
Either.
assuming it gets worse, but it says the existing 40-foot drainage easement over existing drainage channel is considered a national ravine wetlands within the channel and has no buffer associated with the ravine wetlands. So located within 100 feet of a wetland, yes. So that I don't know. I couldn't wrap my brain around what they're asking for here. A lot of them state what they're asking for right here, the beginning of the application, like the last one did. This one, it's not jumping out at me. Will the proposed action connect to an existing wastewater facility? Yes. So they're going to connect the sewer at lot 1 and existing septic field at lot 2. Now,
For me, I'd say it's hard for me to map onto what's being asked of us, and I also can't read that from here.
yeah,
Maybe,
no, I
maybe we
get,
could get it circulated and then discuss it a little bit online. I mean, on an email.
we certainly can. So on the first one, we agreed that we have no comment.
Again, I'm not quite sure what we're being asked of.
On Hootnick, I think I described it fairly clearly because I feel I totally understand that one. And it was, as I said, it was they're asking to subdivide their 22-acre parcel and take 5 acres out of it.
I understand that part, but what are we being asked as the ECC?
What are our comments? What are our concerns?
And they're really changing.
Yes, based on what we
They're not
don't know.
changing it. They're just subdividing, so they're not doing anything other, like I said, putting another line in.
Okay.
So that's-
They're putting a road in. They have to put a road in.
And the first one,
We're gonna build Hootnick Way.
How big's the road? How?
Well, my understanding is it's gonna be built to town specs so that it helps with road frontage on that lot. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me.
Can't read it, but it appears to be. This whole line is 300 or 400 feet. Maps are terrible, but that's 400. This might be 100 feet long. Showing a 20-foot wide right of way there. I think it's 20. 30 foot, I'm sorry. 30-foot right of way. So coming in off of Brickyard Falls Road.
Well, I guess my understanding now from my colleagues here is that they're wanted to subdivide, but they're not proposing building lots so far. So
At
there's
this
not,
time, no.
huh?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Ultimately, that's their plan. They do state that above in their application. And like I said, I will send this around.
Well, other people are more experienced with this sort of thing than I am, so.
So the road that they're putting in is just to satisfy the road frontage requirement, correct?
It appears so.
After watching the planning board meeting, I think that was like a concession to get this lot approved. I mean, but again, I can't speak intelligently on this. So I watched the meeting. That was it.
Is this who? I have Sue. Put her on speaker, she can explain.
Okay,
Frank, Renee has Sue on the line if we want to hear what the details are on this application,
Not this one, though.
The Stringer one.
the Stringer one, the other, yeah.
Sure.
Here, I'm gonna put her on speaker. So? Yeah. Here, I'm gonna put my phone on the table and you can talk.
Okay, everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So the Stringer application was on the agenda as a preliminary review, which was incorrect. Applicant, Mr. Stringer, was on a Zoom feed in, and also we had representative there from their surveying. And what it was the final 5 lots that they were looking for a final approval on. Early 2000s, we did a preliminary plan on the whole Mallard Landing development. And over the course of years, the sections have come in as build out proceeded. And all this was the final last 5 lots of that entire development. They were seeking final approval so that they could go through and develop those 5 lots. There was no change to any of their development features or plans or anything that was presented from years before. And this happens from time to time. They just come in, they just need that final approval, and we had to sign the maps and he'll file them with the county, but the road's already been built, the road is there, there's all the infrastructure is already laid down, it's basically a formality. So the application that we had before us as far as paperwork and the description of what was happening was incorrect, but they explained everything through, and Jamie concurred with us that it was just a final approval.
Let's pour her, I'll take my phone back. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Sue.
Well, it sounds like that's been, sounds like it's just the last 5 parcels in all of Mallard's Landing that it's gone through review process after review process, so. It's not my area of expertise, but I don't know of any objections after all the other stuff's already been done.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, is that this isn't really pertain to us now at this point.
Right.
Well, I vote that we have no comment.
Agreed.
Sure. Yeah.
Agree.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay, so we will report back to the board that we have no comment on the Hootnick subdivision or the Mallard's Landing Stringer subdivision. Okay, I will send these out to everyone, like I said, though, so you have them.
Thank you.
Okay, before we wrap up, that takes care of that. Anything anybody wants to bring up before you head home for the night?
No, sir.
Our next meeting, go ahead, Martha.
What?
I think she was all set.
Oh,
I'm all
I
set.
thought you said, okay. Yeah, so Thursday, May 19th, just to reiterate the 3-day, you've got the 3 volunteers in the morning, Stan, John, and Kathy, and Phil, Polly, and Adam in the afternoon. So 8:30 to 10:30, and then 10:30 to 12:30.
Okay.
And you guys I will send out an email about how you are going to get these trees. Somebody can pick them up from Polly, or
or I can bring them up.
Okay. Okay. So my daughter will get those to you
Yep.
Saturday. And
Yep.
thank you so much for doing that. And she's going to bring a bag of those old grocery bags, you know, the blown film,
Bags.
I bring a bag of bags.
a couple hundred of them for you, Polly, to bring with you to the trees, to hand the trees out in. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Long meeting.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks,
Thank
Frank.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye
Have a
now.
good night.
All right. Bye.
Yep.